All right, hello everybody and welcome. It is Wednesday, July 30th. You are here for how to save 10 hours a week at work with AI context engineering. My name is Albert, founder of Albert's List. I'll be your co-host today. And Albert's List is a job search, side hustle, and AI skills company. And our goal is to help make you the most indispensable career professional that you can possibly be. And so for today, we're talking about AI context engineering. For many of you, you may know that as prompting, but Eric here will go ahead and get into the specifics of that in a moment. As we all know, AI is here, it is here to stay, and it's something that you'll undoubtedly need for your career in the years to come. Whether you have your own business, whether you're somebody who has a 9 to 5, or whether you're somebody who is a student and just looking out at the world, all of this is going to be relevant to your life. So we've brought in Eric Forst, somebody we've collaborated with here for several months now on our career transition conferences, as well as the work that we do with these AI workshops. Eric is an entrepreneur and AI instructor, and he's here to really share with us more about how you can save the time that you can save with AI context engineering. So without further ado, Eric, over to you.
Thanks, Albert. It's great to be here today. Thanks for having me for this continued series in AI education for business professionals and really anyone who wants to use AI in any aspect of their life. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll talk about context engineering today and why it's important for your business workflows and to get a better quality of product and to get faster, more accurate results with AI. Let's see a little bit about myself. I've been very lucky to have been working with AI since 2007 when I ran business development for 5 years for a company called Visible Technologies, which was one of the first AI companies that was using something called social media sentiment analysis. We were using machine learning and natural language processing to help brands understand what people were saying about them in social media. And since then, I've been an entrepreneur in a bunch of different startups in AI and blockchain. Currently, I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Bloxy that does Web3 consulting and has a no-code dashboard and e-commerce platform. It's kind of like Shopify meets Etherscan. I'm also a co-founder in an AI company called Kea. Kea AI is a maximally truth-seeking news agent that avoids hallucinations. So if you're sick of AI that hallucinates, give Kea AI a try. And also We Heart SF, which sponsors a project that I've been running for a couple of years called the Workforce Development DAO. And Albert and I have been running career transition conferences, helping people use AI and Web3 to manage their resumes and their career searches. And so we welcome you to the future career transition conferences. Hopefully, we'll be having another one in October. So that's a little bit about myself and the logos here on the screen. So let's get into how to save 10 hours a week at work with AI context engineering. And so let's see, before we get going, we've got some of the poll results coming in. How do you feel about your AI skills? And we've got 80% saying somewhat experienced. I know a thing or two. Only 10% here say they're novices today. And we've got 10% experience and no one saying they're an expert out of 50 responses. So thanks for taking our poll today. So welcome and introduction. Let's see. AI is changing work. You're probably all well aware of that. You're probably already, since 80% of you have some familiarity, that means you're probably using it at work. If your work lets you use it, there are a lot of companies that have sort of locked down computer systems with good reason. We'll look at an example of that in a minute. So many of you do have AI at work. You have work-sponsored AI, or you're just sort of using it on your own. So what we're going to look at today is the importance of prompting and context engineering techniques to help you save hours a week at work and in your life. So obviously we know we've been going through this era of AI transformation. It's not just a tool. I believe that this is also not just another technology in the sense that, the internet was a disruptive technology. The combustible engine was a disruptive technology, and we had the Industrial Revolution. But I believe AI is even more fundamental of a transformation than any of those. I believe it's more like fire was 25,000 years ago that really completely transformed humans from being hunter-gatherers to having cities and civilization. So I think AI is that disruptive in what we're looking at here. And so everything that we teach you today in 3 months is going to have like the next wave of learning and context to understand what this AI disruption is all about and what it means for our economy and our lives. So this is big stuff. I hope to give you the cutting edge today in context engineering. And an important part of what we're going to look at today is prompt mastery to have really good context in what you're doing in your workflows and your LLMs. A lot of that is in how you design the prompt. You can design the prompt to make sure that you're bringing context to the large language model, to the AI that you're using, whether you're using ChatGPT or Anthropic Claude or Grok or Llama. Prompt mastery and context engineering is going to unlock AI's full potential. And we're going to look specifically at custom GPTs that you can build with OpenAI's ChatGPT Plus subscriptions. You can also access thousands of free custom GPTs using the free ChatGPT subscription. So we're going to look at that feature. Many people are unaware of it or haven't used them, and it kind of unlocks a whole new realm of power and focus in ChatGPT, or if you want to take some of the learning from that, you can apply it to Claude or your other favorite chatbot. So we have another poll. What's your biggest challenge at work, Albert? If you want to launch that one, and please feel free to share in the chat any questions, comments you have throughout the webinar, and we'll pause periodically to answer them. So if anything's just not clear as we're going along, just please put your questions in the chat and we'll respond along the way. So what is AI? I just want to give a kind of a basic framing definition so we're all on the same page. A lot of people understand what it is and also what it isn't. I love this definition that says AI works based on inference, not expertise or experience. And it was something that I heard from Shama Thompson, who runs a marketing agency in Oakland, at an AI conference last year. And so we probably all know that, it's basically training on all this data, but it really doesn't know anything. It doesn't have the human experience of walking down the street, smelling what it smells like after it rains. It doesn't have our expertise of maybe working in the same job for, dozens of years or even a couple of years, or what we learned in school and how that fits into the real world. So again, it doesn't have that kind of context of what it means to be human and have senses. What it does do is it's basically a pattern matcher that looks at all the data it's been trained on, which in the case of ChatGPT and Anthropic and most of the LLMs is pretty much everything on the internet, plus all the books it could give it, all the magazine articles, billions of images. With all of that training data, it learns to detect patterns using this thing called a neural network and a transformer, which is the T in ChatGPT. And those things allow this technology that's been around for a long time. Large language models were invented in the 1960s, but now have enough compute power to detect patterns and give us a generative result. Basically, what it says at the bottom here, generating a relevant response to the prompt, a response that sounds good to us. But at the end of the day, the AI is kind of dumb. It doesn't have the context, expertise, and experience that we humans have. So that's the good news. AI, can serve us and give us these superpowers, but it still doesn't have stuff that we have. So what we're going to talk about with context engineering, why context is important, is how when we bring our context, our life experience, our knowledge to the LLM, we make it more powerful and useful. So why is context important? A lot of people who follow politics may have seen that picture at the top on the left here that says, "What is Biden doing?" But you may not have seen the picture at the bottom that gives the full context. So a lot of news was made that at the G7 summit during the campaign before he dropped out, he was looking one direction. All the other leaders were looking in this direction. And it was just more evidence that Biden was completely incompetent, disoriented, had no idea what was going on. Now, while All that may or may not be true. Maybe some of that is true, and certainly there were probably good reasons why he dropped out. But at least in terms of the reporting of how bad Biden was, or what he was or wasn't able to comprehend, this picture was clearly out of context, gave bad information. It gave a total misrepresentation of what was actually happening, which was that Biden was walking over to greet some other troops who were, not seen out of the context window of this picture, right? So another example of why is important is in this quote here that was in a post by Jim Larison, who's someone who I've known for years and worked with him years ago, and follow his posts on LinkedIn now. And he was talking about a conversation he was having with the CTO of a Fortune 500 company who was given a mandate by the CEO at the beginning of this year to implement as much AI as possible. The CEO had just coming back from Davos and realized that they were behind the curve on AI adoption. So instead of really thoughtfully thinking out a plan on how to adopt AI, they just unloaded a couple $1 million on procurement and letting managers, department heads just bring in all these different AI apps willy-nilly without a lot of oversight in how they were doing it. And at one point, someone on the sales team was using AI to generate a proposal that verbatim had paragraphs in the proposal from their competitor's website. So the AI was just using the generic training data, and it hadn't really been configured with the full context of like who are our competitors, what's kind of information you want to avoid and not avoid when you're doing stuff like proposals. So AI needs a lot of oversight, but the more context we can give it and how we train it and configure it, um, the better it can be. So, so let's see. Just seeing if there's any questions coming in. Albert, how are we doing? Everyone can hear okay? We've got any questions coming in that I should be answering or paying attention to? You've got stuff handled. People are sharing their LinkedIn. People are networking in the chat. That's looks like it's gone. Okay. Any questions on this stuff on context? Please drop a comment in the chat. So, so what is context engineering? So, uh, we've all heard about prompt engineering. Obviously, prompts are incredibly important. We're going to look at them today. We're going to actually look at best practices in writing prompts. But context engineering is more than just the prompt. It's what do you augment the large language model with? So the prompt is part of what you're augmenting it with. So most people know that large language models are trained on all this internet data, but they have a cutoff point. The generic model is usually about 9 months behind. So if you don't augment the LLM with your data, with your web searches, then it doesn't know anything sort of beyond maybe October of last year. So with something called retrieval augmented generation, you can give it the full context. It can do web searches. It can have connection to your database. If you look at the API drawing there and then tools, you could have an API connection to your CRM, and now it can learn information about your customers. It could have data that it gets from web searches, which is another tool on this diagram. It could have documents that you upload to it, which are examples of maybe transcripts of you speaking if you want to train it to your brand voice. You could give it call transcripts. So all of this is context that a lot of people like to think of as retrieval augmented generation, meaning augment the underlying LLM and allow it to retrieve data from other sources. So so context engineering is this idea of instructions, demonstrations, having different inputs and output patterns, facts and knowledge relevant to inform the AI's response, and grounding it with accurate, verifiable data. So where did this term context engineering come from? It first just sort of blew up about 6 weeks ago. This post here by Toby Lutka on June 18th last month says, I really like the term context engineering over prompt engineering, describes the core skill better, the art of providing all the context for the task to be plausibly solvable by the LLM. So again, we wanted to make good decisions, not make misrepresentations or fake news because it didn't have all the context, or God forbid, give our competitor information to a client in a proposal. So so then when I first heard about it was about a week later on this blog post from Phil Schmid, where he said the new skill in AI is not prompting, it's context engineering. And I couldn't agree more. And he's got this wonderful diagram for those of you who are maybe more advanced in thinking about this stuff, where he's got retrieved information, or the RAG that I was just talking about. RAG stands for retrieval augmented generation. And then all of the things that can go into a RAG, the long-term memory of the AI system. So for example, in ChatGPT, there's a setting where you can have it memorize all of the interactions and conversations you've had with it. Um, you can have state history, short-term memory, just like the in-chat context. Instructions and system prompts are things that, like ChatGPT or Anthropic, coded into the instructions that sort of are the generic instructions everyone uses, but they're augmenting the underlying LLM. So, for example, advanced reasoning models have detailed system instructions and chain of thought prompts built into them. Of course, the user prompt in the bottom there, your prompt that you give it is in a way kind of the uh, part of the RAG. It's part of how you augment the large language model with your question that could be your query in the prompt, but also maybe in context and information that you provide in your prompt as well. And then, of course, the tools that we mentioned in the last slide, connecting the LLM to your CRM or to web searches. So it has, again, all kinds of external data and information from different tool sets. So, so that's context engineering. And so why is all this important? Why AI now? Well, we talked about how we're in this revolutionary shift. That's more than a technical revolution. It's going to be a cultural and economic revolution in how we all work and how we find meaning in our lives. But at the end of the day, if you're at work and you're using AI, you're probably going to be in good shape. You know, they say that you're not going to be replaced by AI, but you might be replaced by someone who knows how to use AI better for their job better than you do. So that's why it's important to master prompt engineering and context engineering at the same time. So let's look at how prompts actually give the AI better context. So a zero-shot prompt is when you say, write me a product description for a coffee mug. It's basically just giving a basic task without any context. That can actually be a really useful prompt to do if you're just sort of doing idea generation and creative ideation, because the LLM will come up with stuff without any context. It actually will kind of be pretty broadly thinking about what kind of coffee mug it might be, and it might make up interesting things. Versus a few shot prompt, which is if you give it examples of different types of outputs or different types of product descriptions that you've written maybe for other products, maybe a coffee filter or a coffee carafe, it can then say, okay, well, now I have examples of what you like to inform the way I'm going to write this product descriptions. And then so that's a few shot prompt because it actually has some context. Zero shot prompt means it's got zero context. So let's do an exercise if you want right now, right where we'll start with whatever your favorite chatbot is. It can be ChatGPT, it can be Anthropic, it can be Grok, it can be um, Google Gemini. It doesn't matter. But if you just let's all do write me a description of a coffee mug and see what you get, and then share what you're seeing in the chat with us. Like, and what do you notice about this coffee mug? All right. I got about a 3 or 4 sentence generic description. It decided that it is ceramic. That's a good guess. And it decided that it has 11-ounce capacity, that it's microwash and dishwasher safe, microwave, that it's durable, ideal for everyday use. So it just kind of made up a lot of stuff. I didn't tell it any of this, but there might be some creative ideas in there that I hadn't thought of that I want to make sure I mention in my description. That, you know, for example, making sure I mention that it's microwave and dishwasher safe. So so like, you know, tell us, yeah, you're sharing your actual, all right, we've got people sharing your descriptions in the comments. Love it. So we've got all kinds of different descriptions: cozy morning coffee, afternoon tea. So some of these, what it's writing, could be based on how much information it knows about you, right? Because if you've been using ChatGPT a lot and you have it, the feature turned on where it's learning and training from your conversations, it kind of knows what you like. So everyone's going to get maybe slightly different outputs there. Kelvin's about to share what he got from Gemini. So now let's mix it up a little, and I'm going to paste this into the chat. So if you don't want to have to type this in, um, check it out. You can now experiment with this prompt that I just put in the chat, where if you say, right, let me just, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clear this. I'm gonna use the new chat here, guys. This is just an important exercise to get into. Like if you just always keep piling into the same thread, it's gonna be basing it on the context of what you just gave it, which is perfect, maybe perfectly fine here, but I just want you to kind of see what it's like when you start from scratch for this exercise to do the same thing. Now I'm saying write a description for a coffee mug, and here are examples. Like I said, you're giving it context with this prompt and making it a few shot prompt. And now let's see what it does versus the first one. Much shorter, much more concise, matching what what I gave it in the examples. All right. So that's an example of context engineering in a way, just in the structure of this prompt. So let's take this up to the next notch. Let's take this up a level. So, many of you may have heard of this before, but the four-part formula for an effective prompt, I think, is something that all of us should think about and practice and use whenever we're doing uh, using AI at work. So, the four-part prompt, you'll notice, has context just as one of the parts, which is just giving it all kinds of additional information that, again, may not be in that underlying LLM that is the core training set of data that everyone uses. But it's good to have more than context. So in the last exercise, we started with the zero shot prompt, which was just giving it a task. And then we added some context to it, which also gave it a format. It gave it an idea of how long it should be in the tone, just in the example, just by giving it examples. But you can also just describe what the format should be, saying the length of words and the type of tone you want it to be in. And that's another way to do the same thing we did by just giving it those few shot examples in the few shot prompt. But the role is really important. So in this example, it's saying act as a marketing expert. And because when we talk about GPT, those three letters, generative, pre-trained transformer, I mentioned before this word transformer, it's the technology that Google invented in 2017 that made it possible for the large language models to go through the data fast enough to generate a response quickly enough that it was usable. Large language models had been around since the 60s, but they were really slow, and the processing power that we had couldn't make them work quickly enough to analyze the whole neural net, all the millions and billions of words and what are called tokens in the neural net, in the model, to then generate an output within a few seconds or less than a few seconds, milliseconds. But what the transformer did is it said, you know what, you don't need to look at all the data. We're going to have this attention head and these attention mechanisms that allow the computer to scan way less data, to allow the processing power we have to be strong enough to generate a relevant and coherent and uh, useful response quickly enough, that generative AI became possible. So within a year, by 2018, ChatGPT 1 had come out from OpenAI. And only a year after that, in 2019, with ChatGPT 2, Elon Musk was so worried about its ability to write fake news that he had the whole project shut down. He was one of the co-founders of OpenAI. And that was Elon Musk 1.0, who cared about that fake news stuff. So now here we are, ChatGPT 5.0 is coming soon. ChatGPT 4.5 is the most advanced model that has deep research. And ChatGPT just launched agents last week, which is really exciting. Like Albert and I have been talking about all year, we're going to start teaching a course on agents. And now that agents are more affordable and in ChatGPT, excuse me, that'll be the next series of webinars that we run. So back to the four-part prompt. You now have this structure to use. Let's do an exercise with it. So if we look at the four parts that we just saw on the last slide, what it gave us was act as a marketing expert, the role, write an email promoting webinar, the task on AI productivity for busy professionals, context, email should be 300 words long and in a friendly and professional tone format. So if you guys want to just experiment with this exercise, I'm going to post this in to the chat. So if you all just want to copy paste this into your favorite GPT, you can do that. But what you could also do is you could um, replace this with something you're doing at work, like maybe you're in customer support or maybe you're in graphic design. So just whatever your job is, tell it to give it that as the role. Maybe it's a blog post, maybe it's not an email, maybe it's a LinkedIn post, maybe it's something else. Try an example of this prompt for maybe some real world scenario in your life. And then in the comments, uh, share the either the output with us or share a description of what it gave you. I'll give you all a few minutes to do that while I get my voice back. All right. So Calvin said coffee mug is a type of cup used for drinking hot beverages. Interesting that it still chose ceramic, even though your example had stainless steel. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, it does hallucinate. AI does hallucinate. That's why it's so important to be what is called the human in the loop and double check all the work and outputs that you get that it gives you. Um, but if you are sick of AI that hallucinates, I'm going to do a little plug here for one of my startups, Kea AI. Would love to have all of you try this out. We have not been able to get it to hallucinate yet. So if you can get it to hallucinate, you might win a coffee mug. But we would love that feedback. So if you come here and you try the news agent, um, and you go to you'll yeah, would love to have you try it out, sign up for our email list and see what you think. It's a great way to just sort of ask AI about current events or news without getting hype and without hopefully getting any hallucinations. But you can also um, ask it about anything, and we have not been able to get it to hallucinate. So back to the regularly scheduled programming. Um, yes, thanks, Albert. Appreciate you dropping the link in there. Um, so, all right. So, any comments, feedback on doing the four-part prompt in real life? Did anyone take this example and maybe adapt it to your job or some work that you're doing? Would love to hear what you think. So let's move on to the rest of the slides. So, now that we've kind of given you some basics on prompts and the importance of context in prompts, let's talk about custom GPTs, which is really the next level of getting clarity and getting accuracy in the results from your AI. They've been around for a while. ChatGPT came out at the end of 2022, and I think it was by November of 2023 that they introduced custom GPTs. Custom GPTs are something that is available with the GPT Plus subscription, the $20 a month subscription. Um, a lot of people have that subscription and don't even know that these custom GPTs are available. And basically, what it is it's the context saved into a custom set of instructions so that the LLM is not just, so you're not just using the generic LLM, you're using an version guided with expert knowledge or experience, like we talked about in the first slide. What is AI? It doesn't have expertise or experience. So the custom GPTs are the way to give it that. So I use custom GPTs for marketing, for things like brand voice, for market research, for content generation. I'll show you an example of how you can use these custom GPTs for sales um, to create all the follow-up content that you need for emails and CRM notes and stuff like that. And we'll look at how you can use it to summarize articles or just do research like data research to analyze data and stuff like that. So let's take a look at custom GPTs. The first place to look for custom GPTs is over here in the left nav. If you're in the free version, you won't see you might not have all this stuff pinned here on the side. These are a whole bunch of custom GPTs that either I built or that someone else has built and that I like to use, and I've got them pinned over here on the left-hand side. So these are like superpowers that turbocharge the basic version of ChatGPT. If you prefer to use and Claude by Anthropic, Claude Sonnet, they have something called projects, which lets you do basically the same thing as custom GPTs. I don't know that they have a custom GPT marketplace in Anthropic world. They might, but in ChatGPT world, basically this is their app store. There are thousands of custom GPTs here. At the top here, they always have some featured ones for the week. This is a supercharged writing assistant. They've got an AI agent for legal and professional workers where you can upload briefs and contracts. Trending right now is the astrology birth chart GPT. So if you would like to get a great astrology reading, that might be better than the one that the generic chat GPT would give you, because this will be trained as an expert astrologer with maybe specific knowledge that isn't in the main model. That might be better. A fitness and workout diet GPT, excellent idea. This is but again, you want to look at, okay, who is new gen and PhD, and do I like their approach to fitness workouts? If I do, their custom GPT might be awesome for me and better than just generic GPT. Some of you may have heard about Monday. These are GPTs created by ChatGPT's team. A lot of people have heard about ChatGPT causing psychosis because it's so ingratiating and says so many nice things about you. People have been gotten into these states of delusion where they think they're a demigod, and they've tried to start cults because GPT is so nice to them. So Monday is a personality experiment where it's kind of like a mean GPT that is just pretty cynical and it's kind of hard on you, and it's not always nice all the time. So it's just kind of a great alternative to the generic voice of ChatGPT, which is designed to get you hooked and addicted to it, like all the other social media algorithms that have been trying to get us addicted for the last 20 years. But let's look at the data analyst. I love the data analyst, and I'll show you how powerful this one is. They built one here that is kind of custom designed to look at data. If you think about a large language model, it's trained on language, not on math. So this is sort of a way to kind of make it better at math. There's a new emerging thing called large quantitative models, LQMs, that are coming out, which are basically AIs that are, trained from the ground up to be good at math and science, versus because they're not trained on language as the primitive, they're trained on math as the primitive. But the data analyst is pretty cool. Let me show you what you can do with it. Um, I'm going to grab a document, which is a report of a whole bunch of data from an ad agency. And I'll show you an example of what's in the raw report that I'm about to have analyzed. Um, it is, let's see what we've got here. We've got, let me see if I can find it. I don't know where it went. My preview, got too many things open. Anyway, just trust me. It's a spreadsheet with thousands and thousands of rows of data about uh, ad click-through rates and ad units and stuff like this. So I'm going to say analyze this data about my ad campaign and tell me the best performing units. So now it's going to crunch through this PDF. Let me see if I can find it again. Which is somewhere over the rainbow. Here. Here we go. All right, this is what it's crunching through. It's analyzing rows and rows of performance marketing data about impressions, clicks, click-through rates, post-engagement numbers. So there's a lot here, but there wasn't like a really good executive summary on it. So what I've got now is a nice summary that the click-through rate leader was this Bozeman Chronicle Ad placement got a 75% click-through rate. And then I can then see that I had these paid social ads on Instagram that did really well, so on and so forth. Um, so yeah, Diana's asking, it's interesting, it's processing a PDF. Yeah, you can give it an Excel file, you can give it a CSS, doesn't matter on the format. I'm giving it pretty much a PDF of an Excel file, and it works really well on that. Um, so let's look at some other custom GPTs. Another one that I really like is this sales enablement GPT. This is one that I believe I found in the App Store, in the GPT store. And so for this one, what I'm going to give it is a transcript of um, a sales call. So here it is. And here's the sales call transcript. And then I want it to do meeting follow-up. So it has, a couple of different conversation starters here. And the cool thing about custom GPTs is you can give it different workflows. This one's designed for meeting prep, meeting follow-up, or proposal drafting. But I want it to do follow-up stuff based on a sales call transcript. So I'm giving it that. And again, the custom, the generic version might do it, but with these custom GPTs, it can be designed with a step-by-step process that says, if a salesperson gives you a transcript of a call, you want to give it not just like the email, but a potential proposal draft. You want to give it maybe notes for the CRM, like all the different stuff, and you want to prompt the user for maybe the input that you need from them. And generic GPT will hardly ever do that. Sometimes if you're using deep research will, before it does the search, it will ask some clarifying questions to you. But if you're just using ChatGPT 4.0 or the free versions, you often just don't get um, prompts back to you to get clarification on what you're trying to do and to gather data from the user. So these custom GPTs like this one is saying, all right, let's get some details so I can assist you. Please provide the following. Um, so I'll say, okay, here's the sales transcript. Yeah. Because I just actually just overrode what I did before by clicking the conversation starter. Sorry for that. Please analyze this sales call transcript. So now it's going to go through its workflow and give me a comprehensive summary, pain points and challenges identified, um, and solutions and value propositions discussed. So, a lot of us are getting this from Fireflies or Otter or all the different call summaries, but this goes to a whole other level where instead of just saying, here's the action steps that we need to do, it's also going to actually draft a follow-up email, give me notes for my CRM. So it has all this other stuff built into it. So let's keep going. Research. Um, Recently, I built a US go-to-market strategist custom GPT. I'm doing some consulting work for some Japanese companies that are coming to market in the US and they want help. So I'm showing them how you can build custom GPTs, and this one has a conversation starter I gave it, which is let's create my go-to-market strategy. What are the steps and what do you need from me to begin? And now it's going to guide the user through this discovery step. Then it's going to develop a strategic blueprint. It's going to then develop a go-to-market plan and then a final launch playbook. Um, there, we'll give more information on at the end of this webinar, but one of the things that Albert and I do is we teach a paid webinar in a couple of weeks where we teach you all the best practices and how to build these custom GPTs. So this is one that I built for a client because I couldn't find a good, go-to-market custom GPT, so I built my own. And what you'll see here in the Edit GPT is the configuration that I gave it, which is a really detailed version of the four-part prompt. Really, you see it starts with your role, And then I also have purpose, core objectives, and then all of the steps that I want it to take the user through, which is what's called a chain of thought prompt or a chain of thought reasoning process with a final goal, interactive features. So a lot of, the stuff around the format is embedded here. So we'll teach you the best practices and how to do this. Is it August 14th, Albert? We'll drop all this in the comments at the end. So this is kind of just giving you guys an introduction to custom GPTs, which are really the next level. Um, Another one that's great that we really dive into pretty heavily in the class is content creator GPTs, blog post writers. So here's one that um, just an example of a thread on a custom blogger that I made for my Bloxy startup. And again, similar type of prompt. Let's make a post. What are the steps? For this one, it starts by getting information gathering. Okay, what's the objective of the post? Who's the audience? Where are you publishing it? Format, tone and style, et cetera, et cetera. So then, I give it what it asked for on all of these different inputs, all the way up, the 7 different things it asked for. And now it's going to crank out an outline for my blog post. Give me some different, actually, I'm telling it to do a Twitter, oh, X. So I'm saying I don't want a blog post, I want an X thread. So it's cranking out an X thread for me. Um, so yeah, whatever format you want. Now I've got a draft. I can revise it, do whatever I want with it. Um, so again, just a whole bunch of examples of the power of custom GPTs and what we looked at the beginning of this, which is retrieval augmented generation. By giving these custom instructions, adding documents that you upload into the custom instructions, um, you're giving context that is incredibly powerful that you can't do with the free version. And by saving these and then pinning them over here, you have this whole basically army of custom workers that are designed for your business. When you look at um, like a Bloxy, the Bloxy blogger, the way, part of the configuration is I've been able to upload the Bloxy brand document. So I've been able to train it with my brand voice. You see here, you can upload files. So in a custom GPT, you can give it that RAG, that retrieval augmented generation superpower that it doesn't have. Um, so um, so that's kind of what we wanted to go over in the webinar today. Just kind of helping you see that with custom GPTs, you can power all of these different workflows in a really powerful way that allows you to take your expertise, your experience, your brand voice, your documents, and train a GPT with that stuff to make it unique and powerful to what you do, that you're not just using the generic free version that everyone else uses, that can hallucinate a lot more, and uh, won't work as efficiently and won't give you the highest level quality possible. So as I said at the beginning, AI won't replace you, but someone using AI might. Um, and so we're offering a more in-depth dive into learning AI and staying ahead of the curve at our AI Bootcamp for 3 hours. It's an online workshop for 67 bucks, which is a discount for people who sign up today. Albert, I think you'll drop the sign up link in the chat, and we have a few questions here. Um, let's go through them. So, what is the most efficient from Christina? What's the most efficient way to learn the capacity to benefit of all these different custom GPTs? For example, getting support with follow-up would be hugely helpful for me, but I wouldn't think about going to a sales GPT for that. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a one size fits all answer on the benefit on the upside. I think that the ROI of using these is something you're going to have to experience for yourself. A lot of time, when I first started working with custom GPTs, a lot of times I would compare and contrast using the generic version versus using the paid version. You can just buy a $20 a month subscription for 1 month. You don't have to buy a whole year. Um, to test it out, see how you like custom GPTs, build a couple. But you can try a bunch in the chat on the free version. You can use all those thousands of custom GPTs, try them for free. See which ones you like. They're all different levels of quality. The best ones are the ones that I was showing you at the end, where they prompt you. They're asking you for inputs so that it can get really smart and have all the context it needs to give you a great result. Um, Andrew asks, so what is the difference between a saved thread where you have uploaded this context and a custom GPT? So the difference is that in the custom GPT, well, yeah, there, it's a good point. There's not a ton of difference. Yeah, if you keep going back to your saved thread and you put all the instructions into it that you would in a custom GPT, it's going to work pretty similarly. Um, the difference, I'd say that, yeah, and you could even save a saved thread with someone. That's a really good point. I'd say the main difference in that context is that you just don't have the latest models. So it's worth it to pay the $20 for a ChatGPT Plus subscription where where you can make sure you're using deep research if you want that to be part of the workflow. I'd say the other big difference is that you can't hook up you can't use the API of a saved thread. If you make it a custom GPT, you can actually integrate it into a Zapier workflow. So you can take a custom GPT and have it power, um, like some market research to look for leads and have those automatically get pushed into your HubSpot or your Go High Level to create a call list. So that would probably be the main advantage of custom GPTs when when you put it in that context compared to saving a thread with all the configuration saved into it. Those would be the two main differences. Most powerful models and then being able to hook them into other workflows. Um, Christina, what would be a better strategy for someone recently laid off and looking for a new job, creating a project or a custom GPT, thinking about end-to-end solution, load existing resume, update LinkedIn, job tracker, uh, yeah, actually, Albert, I don't know if you want to share your custom GPT, but Albert, from taking my class, from learning how to build custom GPTs in this webinar, he built a custom GPT that does all of the things you just described here. It's designed to help some optimize someone's resume, their job search, their interview prep. So he built a custom GPT that learns from your resume, learns from all of its interactions that it's had with you to know who you are, and to find the best jobs that you should apply for, and then to coach you on how to prepare for those jobs. So Albert is sharing it, his career coach wizard, and I'm going to click on it so everyone can see it. If you click on the chat, Albert has shared his custom GPT with all of you. So yeah, I would say, Christina, use Albert's Career Coach Wizard. And if you take our webinar on the 14th, you'll learn how to build your own that's customized even more for you. This is one that Albert built for himself, but it works great. Correct me if I'm wrong, Albert, for anyone. Just make sure that because you kind of built this one, if you want to answer in the chat, um, yeah, it's based on your resume and LinkedIn. So yeah, this isn't a generic one, but you can see, because this is based on Albert being a product manager and based on what he does. Um, but if you take our class, we'll teach you how to build your own. So this is one that Albert built. Um, let's see. Yeah, so those are all the questions we have in the chat. We're coming up on 7 minutes before the hour. We'll keep the Zoom open here for a bit longer. For any of you that want to ask more questions, I'll be happy to field them in the chat. Also, if any of you want to connect with me, um, you can scan this QR code to a link tree that has my LinkedIn and my email. Um, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have there. Also, as I mentioned, I do offer consulting services through Bloxy, whether it's Web3 or AI consulting or training programs that anyone needs for their business. I'm happy to also teach webinars on building concept, on doing using context engineering, using RAG um, for corporations or startups that want help with that. And Albert has put the link to the course again. Master AI tools to revolutionize your workflow. You're welcome, Christina. Hope that gave you the answer you were looking for. Um, all right. Any other questions? Albert, should we wrap it up? Anything else you want to add?
Oh, there's somebody who joined late and
The
said,
link
I
to this
joined
workshop
a,
is in the comment section if anyone wants to sign up for this.
yeah. Somebody wrote, I joined a bit afterwards because of travel. What is the 4 point or 4 part prompt formula that you had?
Yeah, we'll share it one more time before we wrap up. So it is right here. Four, four-part prompt. Starts with the role, what you want the AI to act as, so give it a focus area of expertise, makes it work better. Give it its task. That's sort of the basics that most people just will jump right into the task, what you want it to do without giving it the role. The context is just all the details about the task, what it's for, what are examples of other tasks that you like, and then the format. So these are the four parts of an effective AI prompt. And we really kind of in the webinar today focused on number three a lot in the beginning, looking at the importance of context and how with custom GPTs you can give it rich context, whether it's your documents, your brand voice, that you're training into it, so that you can use it over and over again, and you don't have to go to that saved thread every time and hunt for it. Um, but like I said, it lets you connect the API to other workflows that you can't do with the same thread.
Here's another one for later. Wow, to your point of major technology shift, we went from capability of searching publicly available data with Google Search to now working with these GPTs that are being fed with users' inputs of a lot of private data. Is that true that anything fed into the chats can be used for augmented training?
So it's not necessarily true. Let me show you in the settings what you can do to protect um, your stuff. So down here in the lower left corner, I click on my profile and then I'm going to settings. And in the free version of ChatGPT, the default setting is that here under data controls, improve the model for everyone is turned on. So you have to go in and turn it off. If you're using Anthropic uh, Claude Sonnet, the default setting is it's turned off, so they don't train on your stuff. You can opt in to share it to make it better. So you do have this control here in that, and so I recommend turning it off if you want privacy. You don't want your stuff getting trained into the data set. Also, the Teams version of ChatGPT, which is designed for uh, both small startups and enterprise. Like here, if I click upgrade plan, it would be adding team workspace. The idea is that they put a firewall around all the chats that everyone is using the team plan, and everyone in the team can share each other's chats with each other. So if you're working on marketing campaigns or creative stuff that's like, sensitive and you don't want anyone to know about it because it's competitive advantage, but you want to share it with other people, this is the way to do it. So again, you have to trust that OpenAI is not leaking this stuff out. They're not indexing on it. There were famous lawsuits against Google where Google had claimed that they didn't, um, use user data and train on it in certain ways, and it turned out they did. So it is a leap of faith. And if you have super, super sensitive stuff, it's best probably not to use these large language models. There's a whole world of small language models, of on-premise models. So if AI safety and sensitivity is super important, uh, don't use these LLMs at the end of the day. And one of the things that we do teach in the paid webinar next month is how to anonymize data. So there's a way to give information about your employees or your clients that strip out all the personally identifiable information, but the AI can still analyze it. So we show you how to do that in the webinar on the 14th.
Yeah, and Sam Altman said a couple of days ago that what you tell your ChatGPT instance can be used against you in court. So, and there's a lot of people, right, who use ChatGPT as
Yeah,
a therapist now.
that's right. That's right. And even in this, you all may have noticed this little this temporary chat mode, which is kind of like the equivalent of incognito mode on a browser. But even in this temporary chat mode, they said they may keep a copy for up to 30 days, right? So and that is partly for legal reasons. If there was a court, you know, and it could be very legitimate, like someone's life is at risk, and information from one of these temporary chats could help the police or help save someone's life in a legitimate way. But this could also get used in a really bad way. So we always have to be careful with this stuff.
Yeah. Here's another question. What is the best way to detect if you've outgrown the free version? For example, how do you detect hallucinations or accuracy or quality in general?
Yeah, that's subjective. You really just have to, it's just like everyone has to, at the end of the day, be the editor, look at the outputs that you're getting and don't just copy paste stuff. These GPTs are not at 99% accuracy 99% of the time yet. Until they are, you need to look at everything, look at every word. If it's your work or your paper that you're handing in or you're representing for your company, be the editor, be the human in the loop. So, yeah, the level of accuracy is it varies widely depending on the task that you're giving it. I was on a panel at the Gen AI Summit in Santa Clara a couple of weeks ago, and the guy who's the CEO of I think they're called, I'm blanking on the name of his AI company, but they've been working on building AI agents that do things like just deliver DoorDash, and he said that it's been like they've been able to get that from like 40% accuracy to 65% accuracy. So until it's 99%, like you just give it your order and it always shows up the right order, um, it's, you know, you have to be the human in the loop. So level of accuracy varies widely. I noticed Christina had asked a follow-up. Does turning off those security features impact the ability of the custom GPTs to remember and store your interests? So let me show that feature again. So the feature I showed was to make sure your stuff doesn't get trained on. There's another setting in personalization, which is manage memories. And so these are a bunch of specific saved memories, but you want here under memory, reference saved memories turned on. That does make any GPT work better, whether it's one of your custom GPTs or just using the generic mode, which I still use all the time, just for quick stuff. It's not like I only use custom GPTs, but this memory mode turned on um, is better. Again, you're trusting that OpenAI isn't taking all this stuff and training on it if because of the other setting that you might have turned off. But I love having this turned on because it really does get to know you and your workflows and your work environment better when that stuff's on. Um, all right. Well, we're a little bit over time, so I think we should wrap up. Albert, thank you for
Yeah.
hosting another one of these webinars. And like we said, we'll hope to see you in the deep dive on August 14th, where we'll go into custom GPTs and context engineering in depth.
For the workshop bootcamp, do we need the paid version?
It's ideal. Yes, I highly recommend getting the paid version for that.
Yeah.
Uh, yep.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. Well, we've got a repeat of this webinar next week, same time on Wednesday. So if you want to come back, I just dropped the link. I also have the webinar here, so or rather the workshop. So if you're interested in that as well, feel free to sign up today, and we look forward to having you. All right. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we will see you all soon. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.